Diddy and I in this room with all of Biggie's clothes. Next thing you know, it's like I look over and it's like this dude is looking on his phone and he's like looking off underneath one of the shirts. So I'm just kind of tripping, like, nah, maybe he's scratching himself. Maybe he's, it can't be what's going on. But sure enough, that's what he's doing, because he's like, as he's getting into it, he's like, yo, bro, finish me off. And I'm just like, nah. So, he finishes off into one of Biggie's garments that he wore, and like a nut towel or something, and then he does his thing and he walks over and he throws that on my arm, and I'm just like, holy shit. And he's like, rest in peace, Biggie, and walks out and laughs, and I'm stunned because what the was that, right? And
both Diddy and CJ Wallace have strongly denied Hayes' allegations. But the fact that this is now a criminal case rather than a civil one changes everything. In November 2025, Wallace filed a defamation lawsuit against Hay, accusing him of launching a calculated smear campaign to damage Wallace's reputation. Wallace's legal complaint states that Hayes' claims are false, made with actual malice, and with reckless disregard for their truth or falsity.
Biggie's son lured him to Santa Monica, where he was then assaulted physically and called a snitch by Diddy.
But that's not the basis of the criminal investigation.
No, the criminal investigation that the LA Sheriff's Department is looking into is the incident with the T-shirt being tossed.
Now, was that part of, because there was some interaction between the two according to the lawsuit. So was this part of a freak-off? Was there something going on otherwise?
According to CJ, and that's where the most details of this lawsuit is, that this is a music producer / publicist who wanted to get some music off the ground and was working with artists, and they decided not to go forward with his music. And they say this is an embittered person who has now made these false allegations about sexual assault and so forth.
Right, but I'm saying, what is his allegation? Is he saying that there was some...
It was a photo shoot, is what he says. He was invited to a photo shoot, and when he got there, Diddy was masturbating under this T-shirt and then committed the act. So that's the allegation.
And what's new here is that he's now gone to police. He filed this lawsuit back in July, I believe it was.
I want to say that's
right. When he filed the civil lawsuit. He's now gone to police and filed, because he had not before the lawsuit, he's filed this police report. And that's what's launched this investigation.
If you file a police report, it will trigger an investigation. They have to look into these things. It doesn't give it more veracity or anything like that. It's just that they have made this allegation, and the deputies have to investigate
their due diligence.
Now, Diddy's team has said this is categorically false. This is defamatory. We'll vindicate him in court, as we did in our other criminal trial and so forth. But this is now out there, and he's going to have to sort of deal with it.
This is now way bigger than a civil case. A criminal investigation means jail time, and since Diddy is already serving a prison sentence, any new charges could extend his time significantly. In other words, if this case progresses, Diddy isn't just fighting allegations, he's fighting for whatever remains of his freedom. There's also the issue of just how thorough a criminal investigation is. In a civil case, it's the accuser's duty to come up with the evidence. But now, the full force of the LA Police Department is after Diddy.
Welcome back to ABC News Live reports. Sean Diddy Combs is facing new allegations. The LA Sheriff's Department says that it's investigating a report from an alleged victim in Florida. That alleged victim has identified himself as music producer Jonathan Hay in social media posts that have since been removed. A spokesperson for Combs has not responded to ABC News' request for comment. Combs is currently serving a federal prison sentence after he was convicted of transportation to engage in prostitution earlier this year. Let's bring in ABC News legal contributor and trial attorney Brian Buckmeyer for more on this. So, Brian, this accuser says he's already listed as John Doe in a civil case against Combs. So talk about how that could impact this investigation now that he's also has identified himself too.
Yeah, so the only impact that I can see on this investigation will now be that law enforcement will know who to speak with. But he already reached out to law enforcement in Florida that's been working in conjunction with LA, where the alleged crime has occurred. And so the impact of him making notice that he also has a civil case doesn't really affect one or the other. If anything, it affects the potential civil case, because with a typical civil case, you just have lawyers doing the investigation. Now you have the full force and power of the LAPD doing part of the investigation, and their criminal investigation could help create more information that he could go forward in a civil case.
This isn't the only problem Diddy is dealing with. His release date is now being pushed back after officials discovered he was drinking inside the prison. And this isn't a small issue. Alcohol in prison is one of the worst violations you can get caught committing. Not only does this tank his chances of entering the drug rehab program he was counting on, it may have just added over a year to his sentence.
Music mogul Sean Diddy Combs facing more time behind bars. His release date pushed back to June of 2028 instead of May of that same year. The news coming after reports of Combs drinking in prison, something he denies, after he was accepted into a rehab program in prison that could have reduced his sentence by up to a year. He's also been accused of making a prohibited three-way phone call from prison. Here to make sense of it all, NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas and defense attorney and friend to Top Story, Sarah Azari. Guys, thanks so much for being here, both of you. So, Chloe, I'm going to start with you. I'm being told you spoke to Combs' rep earlier. What did you learn about this issue?
Sure. So, Combs' representative, Judah Engelmeyer, telling me by phone earlier today, Tom, that yes, a three-way call was made between one of Combs' lawyers, who did bring in another person on that call with Combs while he has been at Fort Dix, but that there was nothing improper about it. But again, that is not something that you were supposed to do at all. So those lawyers should have known better. As for drinking, he doubled down and said that Combs was not drinking and that, in fact, he's been admitted into this very specialized rehab program that Fort Dix offers is actually going to potentially lower his sentence. Yeah. He could be released earlier because of that. So they're saying he's done nothing wrong and that any reports that he has been drinking is completely not true.
The only reason Diddy even went to Fort Dix in the first place was so he could get time off by joining their drug program. Fort Dix is one of the only prisons in the country that takes more than a year off of an inmate's sentence if they can successfully quit drugs. This was a big part of Diddy's claim that he wanted to change. He even claimed during the trial that he was now sober for the first time in 25 years.
Sarah, after his trial, a lot of people said he got a legal victory. It looked like he was going to be on his way out in a couple of years. How far back does this set him now?
Well, we don't know yet, Tom, because you still have due process rights in prison, right? So there's going to be an incident report if he, in fact, was drinking or there's an allegation. Then he's going to go to hearing. And if he's found guilty of it, then there's going to be sanctions. The sanctions could be that he could essentially be thrown in the hole, the SHU, the special housing unit. He could lose his privileges, and he could lose at least a minimum of 40 days of time credits, which is big. And I want to say this. Drinking in a BOP facility is as serious as committing murder in a BOP facility.
Is it really?
Yeah. As of 2020, the BOP changed the rules and reclassified drinking as one of the most severe charges in custody. So this is really serious if he actually did it.
Diddy thought he was going to get away with everything and had been bragging about an upcoming pardon from Trump ever since he got to Fort Dix. That pardon might not be coming now. President Trump wasn't a huge fan of Diddy to start with, and he has made it clear that he hates drinking. An abusive alcoholic isn't at the top of Trump's pardon list.
And he's writing a book, which could cause him more problems under the Son of Sam law in New York if he's monetizing on his crime.
This is all absolutely terrible if true. I mean, Combs made such a big deal about wanting to go to Fort Dix. Yeah. He's trying to get out sooner than the 50 months in prison, Tom. The idea that he would be violating rules left and right within 2 weeks of getting there is really unfathomable after, again, listening to him cry and sob in front of the judge just recently saying, I want to do good, I'm sober, and I want to be released to go home to my family. So again, and like you said, President Trump, he doesn't like drinkers, okay? He doesn't drink himself. His brother was an alcoholic, and so he has very strong opinions about that. He's talked about it. And if Diddy's seeking a pardon from President Trump before the new year, this is not a good look.
Believe it or not, Diddy was actually drinking to celebrate his birthday. According to several sources within Fort Dix, Diddy was buying this hooch from other inmates and paying them to make it for him. Diddy's birthday was last week, and allegedly, this hooch was part of the celebration. This is the second birthday that Diddy has had to spend behind bars, and from his behavior, it's clear that Diddy is starting to break.
Let's get back to making it. I know you gave me the ingredients.
Right.
I want you to tell me how you put them together and the burping, which is interesting. But before you do that, how is the toilet involved? Because in my mind, whenever I heard toilet wine, I imagine an inmate stirring, the hooch in the toilet bowl, but that's not it. So
Right.
explain what actually happens.
Well, they usually get a big garbage bag, like a big clear bag. I've seen it done in a garbage bag, and they'll put it in the toilet and then let it sit in there. You know what I mean? They won't actually put it in the toilet bowl. You get what I'm saying? With the water. You know what I mean, right? You're not actually stirring it in the
bag, in the tank, yeah. So it's in a bag and it's hidden in the toilet tank, not in the toilet bowl.
Not in the toilet bowl,
And
yes.
that's just...
It takes a while to
Good
make.
distinction.
It takes a while to make. It's not just an overnight thing. This takes days to make it. And remember, it smells really bad, so you have to have a good hiding spot. It's very strong.
Oh, it does smell. Okay, so that's the other thing. So the toilet tank is why you're hiding it from the view of the guards, not necessarily the temperature of the toilet tank is, optimal for the fermentation of the lovely hooch, But so they put it in the toilet tank, and then how does the toilet tank fill up with water to flush? You pull it out, do your business, and flush, and then put it back in?
Yes. So, like I said, these people that usually do make it are very good at it, and they actually charge to make it. So in prison, in federal prison, everything's a business. So he probably paid somebody to actually hold that in their cell and make it for his birthday. I guess it was his birthday that came up, and they will make this alcohol beverage for you. But what's confusing to me is that when you're in the feds, usually there's a crooked CO that'll just bring you in an actual bottle of vodka. So I don't know why they even made it.
Serious?
Yes.
Dang. Okay.
Yes.
So the whole thing you just said about them selling the toilet wine, I feel like Diddy wouldn't have to buy it. There'd be a lot of people who'd want to be friends with Diddy, and they'd be handing it over. Really?
No, they know how much money he has. Everybody's so happy that he's in the jail right now because they see currency. So all they're doing right now is going up to his cell and trying to sell him everything that they have possible. Actually, trying to get on salary with him to make his bed, clean his cell, go extra shopping for him, extra phone calls, cell phones, anything they can. They're all going to his cell trying to sell something to him because they know he has money. They do it to everybody with money in those jails.
TMZ has also confirmed that Diddy's first work assignment behind bars is in the prison laundry room, where he is responsible for washing, drying, and folding clothes and linens used by other inmates. This is a billionaire who has now been reduced to washing the underwear of other criminals.
TMZ said Diddy is airing out dirty laundry for inmates. They said Sean Diddy Combs is being put to work behind bars, and his first federal prison job has him doing an old fluff and fold. That's probably what Diddy was ordering with those escorts. A fluff and fold special. Sources familiar with the situation tell us Diddy's first gig at Fort Dix in New Jersey plants him in the laundry room, washing and drying dirty clothes. Manual labor may come as a shock to Diddy. During his criminal trial, federal prosecutors claimed he couldn't even charge his own phone or fetch a bottle of water and would send his army of personal assistants to basically do everything for him.
Fort Dix is a low-security prison, and for someone like Diddy who has money, people start offering all kinds of favors. He's paying for protection, and there are definitely inmates who'd be more than happy to take the fall for something in exchange for a payout. If Diddy is willing to pay, there's a lot of merchandise that he can smuggle in.
Yeah, so it's called hooch. Basically, it's different ways to make it. You can make it with orange peels. You can make it with sugar. It's all different ways. But what a lot of people don't know, and why it is serious in prison, it can blow up. So if you don't know what you're doing and you don't let it breathe, as they say, it could actually be like a bomb. So it actually can blow up and everything will spray everywhere. But it can get you drunk, and it could also land you in the hole. So, I mean, I don't know as far as them saying he's going to move him out of the unit. I know it's a very serious ticket. I know he could lose his phone, he could lose commissary, and he could lose visits, and also maybe go to the SHU for up to 30 days or maybe more.
So, I mean, that's all serious stuff. I keep wondering about the sentence. Do you not think it's possible, especially since he campaigned, in his sentencing, that he was getting sober? He'd been working, on a sobriety at the MDC. And now he's at Fort Dix. And if this is true, if the report's true, might they say, well, screw it. You're not getting your 15% off your federal sentence?
Right. So it don't work like that. But every ticket in the feds, if it's a certain degree ticket, you will lose some good time. We call it good time. In New York State and federal prison is two different. You could actually lose your good time in New York State or any state prison and get your good time back. The feds, once you lose it, you can't get it back. So if he does lose 20 days, 40 days for this, he cannot get it back, or whatever they recommend for him to lose, because they will recommend days to be lost on this kind of ticket. But like I said, everyone does. Prison, when you get with your people, so in the feds, he's hanging out with all the New York guys. The feds are very segregated, so you're going to go with your own. So in the federal system, he's with the New York car. They call it cars. So he's with his car, which is the New York car, and he's with all his New York guys. And whatever's going on in that car, he's a part of it and hanging out with everybody. So if they're all drinking hooch, they're all doing this, that's just what goes on. He's going to be with his guys, and, you never know what's going to be going on with them. And people tend to get in trouble a lot in these prisons. Very easy.
Diddy's lawyers are denying that Diddy ever drank, but this can be easily disproved by a simple breathalyzer test. Most prisons conduct a preliminary medical exam after an inmate is thought to be involved in something like this. That medical report is ready, and it's going to make Diddy's life hell.
Sean Diddy Combs is setting the record straight about his life behind bars, following a report that said the rap mogul, who is serving a 4-year sentence for 2 prostitution-related convictions, was caught drinking homemade alcohol in prison. His spokesperson emphatically denies the allegation, telling People magazine in a statement published November 9th, "There have been several false and reckless reports circulating about Mr. Combs. He has not violated any prison rules. His sobriety and self-discipline are priorities, and he is taking them seriously." The 56-year-old was recently transferred to a low-security correctional facility in New Jersey after spending over a year at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. At the new institution, he was alleged to have created a mixture of Fanta, sugar, and apples, which ferments into alcohol after 2 weeks, TMZ reported. The spokesperson continues, "This is only his first week at FCI Fort Dix, and unfortunately, rumors will surface throughout his time there. We ask the public and press to give him the benefit of the doubt, the privacy to focus on his personal growth, and the grace to move forward in peace."
Diddy's problems just keep on increasing. First the drinking, and now the criminal investigation. It's hard to imagine how he's going to talk his way out of this one, especially if Jonathan Hayes has the shirt that Diddy threw at him. That is direct DNA evidence. And if Diddy is convicted for battery, he could get 4 years in state prison on top of his federal sentence.
Just when we thought we were done hearing about Diddy, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department confirmed that they are investigating Diddy. And they confirmed that they are investigating a claim against Diddy of SA that came from Rihanna's former publicist, Jonathan Hay. Jonathan Hay also recently came out and confirmed that he is a John Doe who filed a lawsuit against Diddy earlier this year. Once you hear the details of why they're investigating Diddy, it's actually pretty crazy to know that the police believe that there is something here to actually investigate, because the claims against Diddy in this one do sound a little bit crazy. In 2020, Jonathan Hay entered into a recording contract with Biggie's son CJ Wallace. Jonathan co-produced Big Papa House Mix with CJ Wallace, Diddy, and other people from Frank White's team. During this collaboration is where these allegations from Jonathan Hay are coming from. Jonathan Hay claimed that he walked in on Diddy watching adult films and pleasuring himself, and then finishing on Biggie's t-shirt that was around at the time because they were getting ready to enter Biggie's clothing into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jonathan Hay then claimed that Diddy looked at him, threw the shirt at him, and started laughing and said, "Rest in peace, Biggie." This is where CJ Wallace is going to come into play. Jonathan Hay alleges that CJ Wallace and Willie Mack lured him into a meeting where Diddy would allegedly SA him. Important to note that CJ Wallace did just sue Jonathan Hay earlier last week, claiming that all of the allegations that he made against him were false. He claimed that once he got to this meeting, Diddy was yelling and screaming and ordered everybody else to leave but Jonathan Hay to stay. And then Jonathan Hay would claim that Diddy tried to put it in his mouth. Now, Diddy has denied all of these allegations, saying that they're all false and they're all meritless, and he looks forward to fighting this in court. I will say it is very crazy that the Los Angeles Police Department have launched an investigation into these claims against Diddy to try to figure out what exactly happened.
The same evidence can also be used in Diddy's civil lawsuit. The burden of proof for a civil suit is lower, and as long as Jonathan can prove there is a chance Diddy was involved, it's likely that he's going to win.
The basics of these cases. Combs is facing multiple civil cases. How's the burden of proof different in a criminal trial compared to a civil trial?
Yeah, so for criminal trial, you've probably heard it on a lot of like TV shows. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt, amount of information that a regular, ordinary person with the duty of being on a jury would consider to be appropriate or important to determining whether or not a person had done something where there is no reasonable doubt to disagree with it. With a civil case, it's a much lower standard of a preponderance of the evidence, or in more layman's terms, more likely than not, the measurement we as attorneys typically use for that is 51%. And so for a civil case, you're just saying, hey, is there a 51% chance that Sean Combs allegedly committed these acts? If so, he would be liable. In the federal case, which was criminal, that was proof beyond a reasonable doubt, where he is found guilty of those two counts you mentioned earlier and is serving a 50-month sentence in Fort Dix, New Jersey.
And are you scared at all coming out saying all this?
No.
And
I was more scared when I wasn't, because the people who are served knew what they did to me, right? Because they were there. CJ's lawyer had already reached out to my lawyer. Puffy obviously knows about it. They know who I am. Their lawyers know who I am, right? So I felt more scared because I felt like it was more dangerous because nobody knew. Now that we're going to have more eyes on it, I feel way more safer, coming out and speaking. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. Being a victim, how have you been able to, cope and manage since this? Because you told me that you wanted to jump off of a building, the drugs and stuff like that. But what have you been able to, how are you still here?
So I have a great therapist, right, who's been like walking me through everything.
Before these issues, TMZ was actually reporting that a presidential pardon was coming for Diddy as early as next week. Trump had talked to Diddy directly, and allegedly, Trump was considering a pardon. One of Diddy's lawyers has also confirmed the possibility of a pardon and said that while he cannot give out any details at the moment, Diddy is planning something that is going to shock everyone.
President Trump, as we've just played, said that Sean Combs had reached out to him. Do you know how that happened? Did he write a letter? Did somebody place a call for him? How did that happen?
I know that it did. I'm not going to betray exactly how, but I know that there has been that communication, and I know that obviously Sean would welcome a commutation or a pardon. That's no secret. I saw today with great interest that there was another person who the president commuted his sentence because of
a Bitcoin
what he
person who pled guilty.
Yeah, correct. And got sentenced, and president thought it was an overreach. If that was an overreach, and I forget the exact sentence, but I think it pales in comparison to Sean's. And remember, one of the things that is irksome, if you will, about Sean's, and I call him Sean, the president calls him Puff Daddy. I call him Sean as long as I've known him. One of the things that is somewhat irksome is that the government took a big swing at him, and basically tried to get him into take his entire fortune and net worth and the rest of his life. And they lost. And I think that the 50-month sentence was punitive, if you will. I think, if anything, he should have gotten some consideration for the fact that he took the gamble, he risked it, he went to trial, and basically beat all the mandatory life sentences and beat the mandatory divestiture of all of his assets.
Right now, Diddy is barely surviving in prison and has had to pay inmates for protection. Some other inmates have a more twisted idea of justice and have been trying to give Diddy a taste of his own medicine. One of Diddy's lawyers has even said that the biggest threat he faces in there is sexual assault. Money can buy a lot of things, but it can't buy respect when it comes to inmates. Prison has its own rules, and anyone accused of women quickly learns they don't last long. Diddy knows this, and it's a problem he can't pay his way out of.
Is he out of the woods when it comes to being sexually or in any way assaulted by being in a minimum security prison?
Right. When you say out of the woods, it's a prison. Anywhere you go is a prison. You always have to watch your back, literally. And if that's the case, you're never really out of the woods until you're released, or you go to a halfway house, or you get into one of the programs. But if you are in a camp or in a low-level designation, your odds go down dramatically. I mean, you and I, there's no, I just saw a buddy of mine didn't wake up. He was substantially younger than you and me over last weekend. So there's no guarantees you're going to wake up in the morning. So there's never any guarantee. But if he gets designated at what they call a satellite camp or one of the low security institutions, it's a lot safer for him.
So he is used to calling the shots. And, I don't know how much you can talk about this because, he's your client. But I know that people who call the shots when suddenly others are calling them for you and you are suddenly a number rather than a king, that it's hard. Do you have any concerns that he's going to have a really rough time following the straight and narrow while he's in prison?
Well, I've seen it personally. I think he has changed dramatically while in the jail, which is not a prison. I'll make that distinction. Pre-conviction, post-conviction. Pre-conviction jail, post-conviction prison. So he has changed dramatically. However, there's always that tendency. It's in the personality. You're 55 years old like Sean, you're 60 some odd like me, 70 some odd like you. It's very hard to change old habits. And the judge kind of said that in as much today in a different context, but it holds true everywhere. You're going to have to fight against that urge.
One of Diddy's friends, and that's why the story is kind of has gotten a little bit more attention now today, because one of Diddy's friends has come out and spoken about it as well. And it according to the friend, it sounds like the guy said something to the effect of, "I could hurt you at any time," in a little bit of more threatening language, but said something along, in that vein. And it does seem like it was an intimidation tactic. And it sounds like the guy could have obviously, again, hurt Diddy very badly, but chose not to for whatever reason. But saying, "I can get to you if I want to." And you've got to imagine that's an incredibly disconcerting feeling then for Diddy to not feel safe behind bars where he's got nobody there, he's by himself, and to know that somebody could get you at any moment has got to be really scary.
So, what's next? Will the criminal case catch up to him? Can he survive the civil suit? Or is this just the beginning of Diddy's biggest downfall yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear what you think is coming for him next. And if you've been following this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any updates.